When my brother told me he'd protected our family estate by transferring everything to his name, I collapsed right there in the lawyer's office. Days later, I was scraping together coins to keep my beloved bookstore's lights on while he drove past in Dad's Mercedes. That's when I realized family ties are just fancy ropes some people use to hang you with. If you're watching this, hit subscribe and drop a comment telling me if you've ever been betrayed by someone you loved. Because what happened to me is about to make your jaw hit the floor harder than a bowling ball from a 10-story building. My name is Grace Bennett. 3 months ago, I was the responsible daughter, the reliable sister, the one who'd built a modest but happy life around my corner bookstore and caring for my aging parents. My brother Jake was always the charming one, quick with a joke, quicker with an excuse. When our father fell ill, I spent nights by his hospital bed while Jake was handling the paperwork. I should have known what that really meant. The day Dad's will was read changed everything. We gathered in Harrison Wells' law office, me, Jake, and his wife Marla, with her designer purse that probably cost more than my monthly rent. The air conditioner hummed too loudly in the silence as Harrison adjusted his glasses and began reading. To my son, Jake Bennett, I leave the family home and all associated property. I nodded, expecting this. Jake had a family. It made sense. As for my financial accounts and investments, totaling approximately $2. $3 million. My heart quickened. This would be my portion. The security Dad had always promised would help expand my bookstore into the literary cafe I dreamed of. These assets have already been transferred to a joint account in the names of Jake and Marla Bennett, as per the agreement signed last November. The room tilted. November? Dad was already experiencing memory problems then. I looked at Jake, waiting for him to explain the mistake. Instead, he met my gaze with rehearsed sympathy. It's what Dad wanted, Gracie. For the money to be properly managed. Script part separator ===. Marla reached across the table, her manicured nails tapping my trembling hand. We know this is a shock, Grace, but your little bookstore isn't exactly a financial success. Dad was worried about your business sense. I jerked my hand away. My business sense? I've kept that store running for 8 years without a dime from anyone. Harrison cleared his throat. There is a small provision for you, Ms. Bennett. A monthly stipend of $800, administered by your brother, for basic needs. The humiliation burned worse than the theft. An allowance. For my younger brother. For my basic needs. This isn't right, I whispered, then louder. This isn't what Dad wanted. Jake's face hardened. Actually, it is. You were always too busy with your books to notice how worried he was about you. About your future. I was busy with my books because I was running a business while taking care of him. My voice cracked. Where were you when he needed his medication at 3 a.m.? When he couldn't remember which day it was? Managing his estate, Jake shot back. Someone had to think about the big picture. I turned to Harrison. The transfer happened when Dad was already sick. This can't be legal. Harrison wouldn't meet my eyes. The paperwork is in order. Your father was examined by Dr. Whitman and declared competent on the day of signing. Dr. Whitman. Jake's golf buddy. I stood up so fast my chair crashed against the wall. You planned this. Both of you. Marla sighed dramatically. This is exactly the emotional response Dad worried about. This is why we're better suited to manage the estate. I grabbed my purse and stormed toward the door, but Jake called after me. Don't forget, rent's due on your store in 2 weeks. You might want to be nice to your new landlord. I froze. What? Jake smiled, twirling Dad's gold pen between his fingers. Oh, didn't I mention? The commercial property on Maple Street is part of the estate. Your lease is month to month now. That night, I sat in my empty apartment staring at a framed photo of our family from happier times. Dad's arm around my shoulder, Jake grinning beside us. I hurled it against the wall and watched the glass shatter, just like my trust. The next morning brought a text from Jake. Lease renewal terms, $4,000 per month. Market rate. Business decision, nothing personal. Let me know by Friday. My bookstore had never paid more than $1,500 in rent. This wasn't business, this was extortion. Script part separator I spent the next 48 hours in a daze. Customers would speak, and their words reached me through a fog. The betrayal wasn't just about money, it was about Dad. They'd manipulated him when he was vulnerable, used his confusion against him, and sullied his final months with lies. By Wednesday, anger replaced shock. I called every lawyer in town, but each consultation ended the same way, without proof that Dad was mentally incompetent when he signed. Challenging the will would cost more than I had, and likely fail. Thursday morning, Marla pranced into my bookstore wearing sunglasses that cost more than my weekly revenue. "Just thought I'd check out our investment," she said, running her finger across a shelf and inspecting it for dust. "Jake's thinking we might convert this space into a high-end wine bar once your lease ends." I gripped the counter until my knuckles turned white. "My lease doesn't end for another 3 weeks.
About that."
She removed her sunglasses dramatically. "Jake's decided to be generous. Sign over your claim to contest the will, and we'll let you stay 6 more months at the current rate. Time to find alternative employment." "Get out," I whispered. "Don't be stupid, Grace. You're broke. Your little shop is drowning. And now," she gestured around the store, "you've got nothing but these dusty books and Dad's old keepsakes." The keepsakes. Dad's personal items that Jake had generously let me take. Photos, journals, his beloved collection of vintage fountain pens. Things deemed worthless. I said, "Get out." I finally shouted, causing my only 2 customers to look up in alarm. Marla smirked. "Friday, Grace."
Tick-tock.
After she left, I flipped the closed sign and sank to the floor behind the counter. That's when Mrs. Abernathy, my 80-year-old regular who'd been quietly browsing, shuffled over. "Grace Bennett, I've known you since you were knee-high," she said, lowering herself beside me with creaking knees. "Your daddy used to bring you here before you owned the place. That woman who just left, she's got the same look my sister-in-law had when she tried to steal my Harold's pension." Script part separator I wiped my eyes with my sleeve. "What did you do about your sister-in-law?" Mrs. Abernathy's eyes sparkled with mischief. "I fought dirty, dear. Harold kept meticulous records. I just had to find them. That night, I couldn't sleep. Dad had been an accountant his entire life, organized to a fault. If there was any evidence of Jake's manipulation, it would be in his things." I dragged the boxes from my closet and emptied them onto my living room floor. Photographs, ticket stubs, his favorite tweed jacket that still smelled like his pipe tobacco, and his journals, leather-bound books he'd written in daily for decades. The earliest entries were mundane, weather reports, stock prices, notes about clients. But as I reached the journals from last year, his handwriting began to change, growing shakier, some entries trailing off mid-sentence. Evidence of his declining health. October 10th, Jake came by again about the transfer. Said it's to protect from taxes.
Doesn't sound right.
Must ask Grace. October 15th, confused today. Jake and Marla brought papers. Doctor said it's fine to sign. Where was Grace? October 30th. Can't remember if I spoke to Grace about the accounts. Jake says I did. Feel foggy. My hands trembled. He had been questioning Jake's motives. And I'd never known because Jake had deliberately scheduled these meetings when I wasn't around. In the final journal, tucked between the last pages, I found a folded sheet of paper. A list of numbers, banks, and what looked like access codes, with a note, in case of emergency. Tell only Grace. I nearly dropped the paper. Dad had left me something after all. Friday morning, I walked into First National Bank, clutching the paper and Dad's ID. The accounts Jake had claimed were all transferred? Some were. But Dad had opened a separate safety deposit box 3 years earlier. One Jake knew nothing about. Inside was another journal, documents for offshore accounts in the Caymans, and a letter addressed to me. My hands shook as I opened it. Script part separator The accounts weren't empty after all. Dad had hidden away almost $800,000, along with property deeds to land upstate I'd never even heard of. And a letter that made my blood run cold. "My dearest Grace, if you're reading this, Then my suspicions about Jake were correct. He's been pressuring me about money for months. I've pretended to give him everything while securing these assets for you. The offshore account details are enclosed. Harrison Wells cannot be trusted. He's in Jake's pocket. Contact Thomas Delgado at Meyer and Associates instead. I'm sorry I won't be there to help you fight this battle. Love always, Dad. I pressed the letter to my chest, tears streaming down my face. Dad hadn't abandoned me after all. He'd been protecting me the whole time. That afternoon, Jake called. Time's up, Gracie. What's your decision? I took a deep breath. I need the weekend to think.
No extensions.
Sign today or rent triples on Monday.
Fine. I'll sign.
But I want to do it at the house where Dad died. Foreclosure. Jake hesitated. Whatever. Be there at 6. I spent the next hours calling Thomas Delgado, who confirmed the accounts were legitimate and mine alone. We made a plan. At 6 sharp, I knocked on the door of my childhood home. The home Jake had stolen. Marla answered wearing a silk robe like she'd lived there forever. Come to surrender? Where's Jake? In Dad's office. Where else? I walked the familiar hallway, passing family photos Jake hadn't bothered to take down. Inside the office, Jake sat at Dad's desk, papers spread before him. Sign here, he said without looking up. Full release of claims against the estate. I dropped my bag on the floor. You know, Jake, Dad always said you were smart, but careless. He finally looked up. Just sign the papers, Grace. I visited the bank today. His pen paused. Which bank? I smiled. The right one. Script part separator ===. Jake's eyes narrowed.
What are you talking about?
Dad's safety deposit box. I pulled out a copy of the letter. The one you never knew about. His face paled as I slid the paper across the desk. This is fake. You're desperate. Thomas Delgado at Meyer and Associates doesn't think so. In fact, he's already secured a court order freezing the offshore accounts. Jake shot to his feet. What offshore accounts? Marla appeared in the doorway, her silk robe replaced by jeans and a blouse. What's going on? Your husband stole from Dad, but Dad was smarter. I turned back to Jake. Did you really think he'd give everything to you? After what you did? I didn't do anything. Dad wanted me to manage the money. Then explain this. I pulled out the journal entries, dated, and in Dad's handwriting. And explain why Dr. Whitman suddenly took that extended vacation to Belize right after certifying Dad was competent. Jake's hands began to shake. Those journals are private property. My private property, I corrected. Along with about $800,000 Dad made sure you couldn't touch. Marla grabbed Jake's arm. Is this true? There's money she can access? The look that passed between them told me everything. They were already in financial trouble. We should talk privately, Jake muttered to her. No need, I said. I'm calling the police tomorrow to report elder financial abuse unless you sign these. I pulled out my own stack of papers. Transfer of the house and store back to the estate, to be divided according to Dad's real wishes. Jake lunged across the desk. You ungrateful little. Careful, I warned. Assaulting me won't look good in court. Marla stepped between us. Let's all calm down. I'm sure we can work something out. Families should stick together. Family? I laughed bitterly. You threatened to triple my rent yesterday. You called my bookstore worthless. We were just negotiating, Marla stammered. Well, now I'm negotiating. Sign, or tomorrow everyone in town knows what you did to Dad. Script part separator ===. Jake's face contorted with rage as he snatched the papers, skimming their contents. This is extortion.
No, incorrecta.
It's justice. We'll fight this, Marla hissed. Your word against ours. I pulled out my phone, hitting play on a recording. Dad's weak voice filled the room. Jake's pressuring me again. Brought some doctor friend.
I'm scared, grazie.
That's inadmissible, Jake stammered, but his lawyer's confidence was cracking. Maybe I conceded. But the court of public opinion doesn't care about admissibility. Imagine the headlines. Local business owner exploits dying father. Your clients would love that. Marla's designer facade crumbled as she grabbed Jake's arm. Sign it, she whispered urgently. You don't understand, Jake pleaded, suddenly desperate. We needed that money. The investments went bad. We're underwater on everything. Not my problem, I replied coldly.
Sign.
With a shaking hand, Jake scrawled his signature. Marla followed suit, refusing to meet my eyes. Now get out of Dad's house, I said. You have 48 hours. As I walked toward the door, Jake called after me. This isn't over, Gracie. I turned back. Ice in my veins. Actually, it is. But you know what's interesting? Dad's letter mentioned something about Harrison Wells being in your pocket. I wonder what the Bar Association would think about that. Jake's face went ghost white. You wouldn't. Try me, I said, closing the door behind me. The victory felt hollow as I drove back to my apartment. I'd won, but at what cost? My only family was now my enemy. The truth was, I didn't want revenge. I wanted my brother back. The brother who'd taught me to ride a bike, who'd helped me build my first bookshelf. Where had that person gone? Script part separator . The next morning, I woke to 17 missed calls and a pounding on my apartment door. Grace. Open up. It was Harrison Wells. I peered through the peephole. He was disheveled, his usually slick appearance replaced by panic. I know you're in there. We need to talk. Now. I opened the door, but blocked the entrance.
About what?
How you helped Jake manipulate our dying father. Harrison ran a hand through his thinning hair. You don't understand. Jake has evidence against me, documents that could cost me my license. I didn't have a choice. There's always a choice, I said coldly. Look, he lowered his voice. Jake's desperate. He owes money to dangerous people. This wasn't just about inheritance. He needed quick cash to pay off debts. My stomach dropped. What kind of debts? The kind where people break your kneecaps if you don't pay. He got mixed up with some developer who turned out to be connected to. Harrison glanced nervously over his shoulder. Let's just say, they don't use lawyers to settle disputes. This changed everything. Jake hadn't just betrayed me out of greed. He'd been desperate, scared. Why are you telling me this? Because they're coming after anyone connected to Jake. Including you. They think you have access to money now. My phone buzzed with a text. Unknown number. We know about the offshore accounts. Me today or bookstore burns tonight. The blood drained from my face. Harrison nodded grimly.
See?
I tried to warn Jake, but he wouldn't listen. Now it's too late. I slammed the door shut and double-locked it. Through the wood, I heard Harrison call. They're watching your store, Grace. Don't go there. Script part separator . I paced my apartment, panic rising in my throat. Dad's hidden fortune had just become a death sentence. What had Jake gotten himself into? I called Thomas Delgado, my new lawyer. His response was immediate and alarming. Don't contact Jake, don't go to the store, and don't respond to unknown numbers, he instructed. I'm calling in a favor with the police. Stay put. Hours crawled by as I huddled in my apartment, jumping at every sound in the hallway. Around noon, there was a soft knock at my door. Ms. Bennett? Detective Rivera, Oakdale Police. I peered through the peephole at a stern-looking woman in plain clothes, holding up a badge. Mr. Delgado sent me. We need to move you to a safer location. 20 minutes later, I was in the back of an unmarked police car, clutching a hastily packed overnight bag. Your brothers made some powerful enemies, Detective Rivera explained. A developer named Victor Castillo. He builds luxury properties with money that needs cleaning. Money laundering, I whispered. She nodded. Jake was handling some real estate transactions for them. We think he skimmed from the proceeds. That doesn't sound like Jake. People change when they're desperate. Your sister-in-law has expensive tastes. We pulled into the parking lot of a motel on the edge of town. As Rivera checked me in under a false name, my phone buzzed again. Unknown number. Hiding won't help. We want what's ours by midnight or your family pays. Attached was a photo that made my heart stop. Marla, tied to a chair, mascara streaking down her terrified face. Detective. I called out, my voice shaking as I showed her the image. Rivera's expression darkened. This complicates things. She made a call, speaking in rapid, hushed tones. The situation has escalated, she told me after hanging up. They've taken your sister-in-law. We don't have much time. What about Jake? No sign of him. He might be running or worse. My stomach churned with fear and something unexpected, concern for the brother who'd betrayed me. Because beneath it all, he was still my brother. I have the access codes, I said finally. I can transfer the money. Rivera shook her head. That's not how we handle this. We need to. My phone rang. Jake's number. Script part separator . I have to answer, I told Rivera, my finger already on the accept button. Grace. Jake's voice was ragged with fear. They have Marla. I know. Where are you? Hiding. They came to the house after you left last night. I barely got out. Rivera gestured for me to put the call on speaker. They want the money, Grace. Dad's hidden accounts. Who is they, Jake? I demanded. Castillo's people. I screwed up. He gave me investment money, millions, and I lost it on bad real estate deals. I tried to use Dad's money to cover it until the market turned around, but you stole from Dad because you'd already stolen from a criminal? My voice rose in disbelief. I was desperate. Jake sobbed. They'll kill Marla. They'll kill me. You too, if they find you. Rivera scribbled a note. Keep him talking. Tracing call. Jake, I need you to come to me. We can fix this together. I can't risk it. Just transfer the money to the account they texted you. Please, Gracie. For Marla. And then what? They'll kill you both anyway once they have the money. A long pause. Maybe. But what choice do we have? We involve the police, I said, looking at Rivera, who nodded encouragingly.
No cops.
Jake hissed. Castillo has people inside the department. Rivera's eyes widened in alarm.
Jake, listen to me.
Dad protected that money for a reason. If we just hand it over, we have nothing. What's more important, money or your family? Jake demanded. That's rich coming from you, I snapped back. I deserve that. Jake's voice broke. But Marla doesn't. Please, Gracie. You were always the good one. The kind one. My throat tightened. How do I even know Marla's still alive? I'll prove it. Give me an hour. The line went dead. Script part separator . Rivera was already on her phone. The trace got us close. He's somewhere in the warehouse district by the old pier. He mentioned proving Marla's alive, I said, wrapping my arms around myself to stop the shaking. What does that mean? They'll likely send proof of life, a video, maybe. She glanced at me. This is very dangerous, Ms. Bennett. These people don't leave witnesses. Why did Jake get mixed up with them in the first place?
Rivera Said.
The Castillos approach professionals, lawyers, accountants, real estate agents, who look successful, but are drowning in debt. Your brother was probably living beyond his means for years. That matched the Jake I knew. Always wanting more, always thinking he deserved better than what he had. Exactly 57 minutes after Jake's call, my phone chimed with a video message. Marla appeared on screen, today's newspaper beside her, tear-streaked but alive. Tell Grace to follow the instructions, a voice commanded off camera. Please, Grace, Marla sobbed. They're going to kill me. The camera panned to Jake, his face bloodied, one eye swollen shut. I thought I could negotiate in person, he mumbled. I was wrong. A text followed immediately. 2M by midnight or they both die. Account details attached. They have Jake too now, I whispered, showing Rivera. This changes everything, she said grimly. They've shown their faces to your brother. They won't let either of them walk away. So what do we do? I demanded. We're setting up a sting operation, Rivera explained. Make them believe you're transferring the money, but we'll be waiting. And my brother and Marla? We'll do everything possible to get them out safely. The plan came together quickly. I would appear to cooperate, initiating a partial transfer to the specified account, enough to convince them I was complying while police tracked the digital footprint. At 11:30 p.m., I sat in a police van surrounded by technology one didn't understand, officers speaking in clipped, urgent tones around me. Sending bait money now. a tech announced as I authorized a $50,000 transfer from one of Dad's accounts. The response was immediate. Proof of good faith received. Full amount by midnight or execution live streamed. They've accessed the funds, the tech confirmed. Location locked, abandoned fish processing plant on Harbor Road. Move in. Rivera ordered into her radio. Suspect location confirmed. Hostages on site. Then she turned to me. Stay here. No matter what happens, do not leave this van. I nodded numbly, watching the tactical team gear up around me, their faces grim with purpose. These strangers were risking their lives for my family, my lying, stealing brother and his wife. And despite everything they'd done, I prayed they'd survive. Script part separator . The minutes crawled by like hours as I sat in that van, monitoring the police radio. Static crackled between terse updates. Team Alpha in position. Team Bravo approaching East Entrance, holding for signal. My phone buzzed with a message from the kidnappers. Time's running out. Full transfer now. I looked at the officer monitoring communications. He shook his head.
Keep stalling.
They need 3 more minutes to get all units in position. I typed back with trembling fingers. Transfer processing. Bank security protocols causing delay. The response was immediate and chilling. No more delays. A video call request appeared on my screen. Against the officer's protests, I accepted. Jake's battered face filled my screen. Gun pressed to his temple. Behind him, Marla sobbed quietly. They know, Gracie, Jake whispered. They know about the police. A man's voice cut in, accent thick. You have 30 seconds to complete transfer or watch your brother die. Then his wife. Then we find you. The officer beside me was frantically radioing. Suspects aware of operation. Hostage situation critical. 20 seconds. I could hear commands being shouted through the radio. Move in now. Go, go, go. 10 seconds. Jake looked directly into the camera, blood trickling from his split lip. I'm sorry, Gracie. For everything. 5 seconds. The sound of splintering wood and flashbangs exploded through both the video feed and outside the van. Script part separator . Gunshots rang out. The video feed cut to black.
Jake.
I screamed, clutching the dead phone. The officer pulled me down as more gunfire erupted outside. Stay down. For 5 excruciating minutes, all I could hear was shouting, more shots, and the wail of approaching ambulances. Then silence fell, broken only by radio chatter I couldn't decipher through my panic. Finally, Rivera appeared at the van door, her face streaked with sweat. We got them. Your brother and sister-in-law are alive. I collapsed against the seat, tears streaming down my face. How bad? Your brother took a bullet to the shoulder. Marla's mostly just shaken up. They're being transported to Memorial Hospital. 2 hours later, I stood in a hospital corridor, watching through a window as doctors worked on Jake. Marla sat nearby, wrapped in a blanket, giving her statement to a police officer. Ms. Bennett. I turned to find Thomas Delgado approaching, briefcase in hand. Detective Rivera briefed me. We have a situation that needs immediate attention. My brother will live, he said firmly. But 4 of Castillo's men were captured tonight. They're already offering to testify that your brother was knowingly laundering money. The floor seemed to tilt beneath me. What does that mean? It means Jake is facing serious criminal charges. Money laundering, fraud, possibly accessory to other crimes we don't even know about yet. And Marla? Unclear if she knew the extent of it. But Grace, his eyes met mine. The police found evidence Jake was planning to double-cross you again. Once he had access to your offshore accounts, he intended to empty them completely and flee the country with Marla. I stared through the glass at my unconscious brother, tubes running from his arm, oxygen mask obscuring his face. Even at the end, he'd been planning to betray me again. Marla approached, her designer clothes replaced by a hospital gown, mascara still streaking her face. Grace, she whispered. I'm so sorry. I didn't know how deep Jake was in.
He stared at her coldly.
You were happy enough to help him steal my inheritance. Her eyes dropped. We were drowning in debt. The house, the cars, all mortgaged to the hilt. When your dad started getting confused, Jake saw an opportunity. I told him it was wrong, but not wrong enough to stop him. I finished. 3 months later, I sat in a crowded courtroom as the judge delivered Jake's sentence. 8 years for financial elder abuse, fraud, and money laundering. He'd made a deal, turning state's evidence against Castillo's organization. Jake looked back at me from the defendant's table before they led him away. His eyes held something I'd never seen before, genuine remorse. That afternoon, I unlocked the doors to Bennett Literary Cafe, the expanded version of my bookstore, funded by Dad's hidden accounts. The grand opening banner fluttered in the spring breeze as customers lined up outside. Mrs. Abernathy was first in line, beaming as she entered. "Your daddy would be so proud, dear." "I hope so," I said, leading her to the reading nook named in Dad's honor. Later that evening, as the last customers left, I received a letter from the prison. Jake's handwriting on the envelope. I almost threw it away, but something stopped me. Inside was a single page. "I'll spend every day of these 8 years trying to become the brother you deserved. I don't expect forgiveness, but I hope someday you'll visit. The man I was died in that warehouse. Maybe the brother you remember can find his way back." I folded the letter and placed it in Dad's old journal. Some wounds take longer than others to heal. Some betrayals cut too deep for simple forgiveness. But as I locked up my thriving business, built from the ashes of betrayal, I realized I'd found something unexpected through all this pain. My own strength, resilience I never knew I possessed. Sometimes family ties strangle you. And sometimes, when you cut them loose, you find the freedom to become who you were always meant to be.